And welcome back to episode 3, our 4th of July special. Thanks to everybody who tuned in last week as we had a really great turnout. We talked space, got some golfing, tried to get as much info into you as we possibly could. But this episode I am so excited for. We've got a military veteran on, 30 years experience. In this episode, when I was really thinking about, the way everything's going to move every other week, we're going to be on for 4th of July. And I'm thinking, I can't just have any normal guest, okay? I need to have somebody who's going to capture our audience. Somebody who was living out an American dream. Somebody who fought for you to have all the fun that you've had so far this weekend. And what better way to spend your 4th of July watching fireworks and watching our podcast, Red, White, and Boom. You know what I'm talking about? So, with all that being said, I'm Phil Bacacci. You're watching at home or on a golf course or driving home from work or to work whenever this launched. Let's get booming. And welcome back. I hope that the fireworks so far have been pretty good this weekend, but this episode, this probably beats every single firework that you've done. And I said, guys, I got the best guest possible. Actually, I don't believe in the best because the best lose, the greatest don't. Here today with me is Sergeant Major Frank J. Lugo, retired. He's a native of West New York, New Jersey, and enlisted in the U.S. Marine Corps in October of 1989. He attended the Marine Corps boot camp at Parris Island in South Carolina, then followed on to Marine Corps School of an Infantry Camp, and then in North Carolina and the Security Force Regiment Naval Support Activity Chesapeake in Virginia. Lugo's deployments spanned 3 decades to include Operation Restore Hope, Desert Storm, Desert Shield, Joint Guard, Iraqi Freedom, and Enduring Freedom. Sergeant Major Lugo also had held diplomatic assignments to the U.S. embassies in Brussels, Belgium, Budapest, Hungary, Tokyo, Japan, and the NATO HQ, and the U.S. mission to Europe Community. Sarge, welcome aboard.
Glad to be here, Phil. Glad to be here.
So, first and foremost, I think I speak for everybody watching the podcast. Thank you so much for everything that you did for us in your amazing military career. And we really just want to thank you because you guys don't get the credit that you guys deserve anymore.
Well, I'll tell you, I never feel like I should be thanked. I think when you look back, you'll see that this country was founded on a ragtag bunch of folks that decided, hey, we don't want to do things the way things have been done in the past, and we're a country of fighters and patriots, and I'd like to think that I'm just amongst a very long line of people who really care about this country.
Speaking of all that and the greatness of people in our country, but I want to just dive right in. I mean, I look at all these wars that you've been in. Out of every single one of these wars, because I know there's all this talk, everybody always talks about Iraqi freedom and endurance freedom. What to you was the most interesting, the hardest war that you had to go through?
Well, I think every deployment takes on a life of its own. I had the opportunity to deploy once or twice. I would say that of the deployments that I participated in, I think Iraq freedom in 2008 was a very interesting time. If you think back to where we were as a country, we were in the middle of the surge. So General Petraeus, who was the leader of Central Command at the time, had made the recommendation to the administration, hey, we need to surge up. We need to bring more folks into the fight. And there were a lot of things going on as a country. You had the financial markets crash. You had the housing market crash. This country was going through a lot. And at that time, there were a lot of things going on with the insurgency in Iraq. And if you know anything about Iraq, the Iraq War, you had essentially 2 elements within Iraq, 3 elements if you consider the Kurds, but really it was the Sunni Muslims, the Shia Muslims, and the Kurds. And they were all trying to gain control of Iraq proper. And you had, I was assigned to a Joint Special Operations Task Force that was responsible for working within Sadr City, Iraq. And Sadr City, Iraq is a 2 by 2 mile square area in the northeast corner of Baghdad. And that's where, at that time, it was the most dangerous place on the face of the earth. You had the Shia insurgency led by a man named Muqtada al-Sadr. His father, the city was named after his father, who predated him, obviously. And he was backed by the Iranian government, and he was responsible for triggering a lot of attacks that were occurring on U.S. service members during that time. I was involved in the Battle of Sadr City. That was essentially 35 days of house-to-house fighting. If you go back and you watch the movie American Sniper, the story of Chris Kyle, a decorated Navy SEAL sniper, there's a scene in there where he's providing overwatch as they're building a wall. And what the purpose of that wall was to separate Sadr City, a third of Sadr City, put it under U.S. control, and then leave the 2/3 for the Iraqi. And the purpose was, hey, we were going to flood that portion of that city with money, with sustainable development, so that the Iraqis would see, hey, this is what life could be like. I mean, there was no running water, no sewage, active sewage. It was a tough environment, and that was probably the most I would say interesting period in my military career in terms of deployments, because there were a lot of things going on. We were working, during the day we'd work with local civilians to try to bring about change, and then at night we were going out and looking for bad guys. So.
Talking about the local civilians, we have a photo of that. We're going to put that up right above us. How hard is it to trust those type of people? How hard is it to trust them? Because, I mean, I just think about it, everybody always says, you got to be careful, who your friends are, and you got to trust, certain people, but you don't even know these people. You're in their country. To them, you guys are just these strangers coming into some of them. How are you able to trust them on their word?
You can't.
What goes through your head when you're sitting there? Like in this photo, what's going through your head? I'll pull it up so you know what I'm talking about. But what's going through your head in that photo?
I don't know. That year, I was in the press quite a bit during. All right, so that photo is actually in Afghanistan. That's not. Oh, okay. That's not in Iraq. That's in Afghanistan. But I'll answer your question. I think so. The role that I played. I was at that point, that deployment, I was a civil affairs team sergeant. And the role of civil affairs, they're part of U.S. Special Operations Command. Special Operations Command is made up of 5 elements. You have the Green Berets, you have Ranger Regiment, you have the Special Air Operations Regiment, they're the helicopters, and then you have civil affairs and you have psychological operations. I served almost all of my time within psychological operations and civil affairs. And the mission of civil affairs is to mitigate civilian interference on the battle space. So what that means in layman's term is it's my job to interact with the local leaders, whether it's the de facto local leaders, like the guys that are running the mafias, so to speak, or the elected officials, and try to get them to understand that the benefits of working alongside coalition forces or U.S. Special Operations in order to keep innocent civilians off the battle space so we can find the bad guys or the insurgents to get them off the battle space. So that was essentially my job. So in terms of trust, you were taking a risk. I can tell you that my team, that particular deployment, there was a bounty on my head for $50,000 to get me off the street because they knew that our team, I had a 4-man team and we were making a significant impact on the battle space. We were getting bad guys. We were getting snipers that were attacking U.S. service members. We were getting bomb makers, guys that were making vests that would blow up in squares and markets. We were getting a lot of those folks off the battle space. So we were making a serious impact, and because of that, there was a price on our head. So the term trust, I don't think that you make alliances as you see fit. And hope for the best, but there's not a whole lot of trust.
Wow. I'm speechless after that. I really am speechless after that. So, if there's one story that you could really tell us about, Iraqi freedom, Restore Hope, Endure Freedom. What's like, or even the Desert Storm, Operation Desert Storm. If there's one story that really sticks out to you.
The story that's most impactful to me would be, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about Major Dwayne Kelly. Dwayne Kelly was was the epitome of what it meant to be a citizen soldier. And what I mean by that, Dwayne Kelly was my boss in Sadr City, Iraq. He was a 17-year veteran in the New Jersey State Police. So this is a guy that served this community as a state trooper in New Jersey, decorated state trooper. He was a decorated soldier, and he was assigned to my team. And my team, my best friend Vince Ruiz, who's now out and working on his PhD in organizational leadership, we were on a sniper support mission the night before. We were getting ready to go out on this mission to provide sniper support, sniper overwatch, and we, Major Kelly came into our room and said, "Hey, tomorrow morning I'm gonna go meet with the local leaders of Sadr City." They were about to have their first election in 3 decades. That was something that we helped facilitate by providing a peaceful and secure environment. They were going to have what we take for granted. We have elections every 4 years, right? For president, we have elections for governors. Every 2 years, we get to vote for congressmen. A lot of places on the earth don't have that ability, and Iraq was one of those. And we were able to facilitate that. And Major Kelly said to us, "Hey, I know you're going on this mission. You could sleep in tomorrow. Don't worry about it. I'll go and take this mission on my own." So Major Kelly, on June 24th, 2008, at around 8:30 in the morning, took off from the compound that we lived on to the Iraqi council, the Sadr City council, and he walked into a room with 5 other U.S. service members. What he didn't know was there was an explosive device in the room. And as he sat down, he took off his body armor, as well as the 4 other soldiers that were in the room, and the bomb detonated. He took the impact of this bomb. The bomb was an improvised explosive device that had ball bearings, nails, and shards of glass, and he took the brunt of the blast. He survived. Major Kelly was 6'6" and every bit of 260, and we were able to drag him out. We got him onto the vehicle, and when he got to the aid station, he succumbed to his injuries. It's now 2021. We're getting ready to celebrate July 4th, and there isn't a day that goes by that I don't think about Dwayne Kelly or the impact that he's had on my life and my family's life. So when we talk about why we do what we do, I can tell you that from that day on, one of my whys was Dwayne Kelly, to live every day in honor of that man and to live every day in the way he would have lived his life, which was full of honor, full of dignity, respect for other people, and just doing the right thing, being an active member of your community. And that's why I feel very strongly about being part of, whether it's the Don Bosco Prep community or the Don Bosco Prep lacrosse team. Giving back is an important component to who I am, and a lot of that is attributed to Major Dwayne Kelly.
That story right there is going to put me into the next topic of our show, because it really shows how much grateful people need to be. So let's cut and roll the clip to your favorite segment, No More Bullshit. And welcome back to No More Bullshit. I've got the bullshitting behind me, so let's dive right into bullshit. So I was really kind of thinking, I've got a lot of stories about a lot of bullshit and all this stuff, a lot of fucked up shit. And then I said, oh my gosh, 4th of July. I've got it. There's 365 days in a year. 363 of those days, you have so many people, teenagers, adults, who absolutely hate America in our country and talk bad about it at every single aspect on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, some on Visco maybe. And when you really look at this, They hate America for 363 days of the year. You're like, Phil, there's 365. Those 2 days in the year that they celebrate America, Memorial Day and 4th of July. Why? Because it's their excuse that they get to go out to a party and start drinking and living it up. They're going to go out and put on their I Love America t-shirts and 4th of July, their red, white, and blue bikinis or bathing suits or whatever they might wear. And then, after those 24 hours or that weekend of celebrating, they will go right back to the exact same narrative that they've been preaching all year on how much they hate America and how messed up our country is. And that's what's going to divide our country. These hypocrites, absolute hypocrites who hate America. But hold up, I could go down the shore, I could go to the beach and just say that I love America after I absolutely shit-talked it for 363 days out of the whole year. But 2 days when I get to just go barbecue and drink and get absolutely hammered, that's the only time they will love America. And that, my friends, is bullshit. I think you're probably right now saying, oh my gosh, wow, he's making some sense out of this. I know I'm making sense out of this because it's so true. I know for a fact that every single person watching this knows somebody of that character. Absolutely, 100% they do. And now you're probably like, oh my gosh, what do I do? You reach out to him, maybe you say something to him. I'm sure you all saw him at the beach this weekend or wherever you are. I know I did. That's our episode, No More Bullshit. Let's get right back out to our guest. And welcome back, Sarge. So let's get right into it. We just talked on a little break. I heard you got a really, really cool story for us. Another one, a good one.
Good one. Yeah, I got a few good ones. My last deployment.
What's one of Grant Pollock's favorite ones? He told me before, he goes like, Phil, you gotta ask him. Give me one of those stories.
Good old Grant, man. Grant's one of the all-time greats. I don't know how great it is, but I mean, I could tell you something that, one of the most dangerous missions I went on was in Afghanistan, 2011, 2012. I was in Kapisa province, assigned to a special operations task force working with French special forces and Romanian special forces. And our job was to help develop Afghan local, not only military, but Afghan national police. And we had done a mission where we inserted via helicopter deep into the valley, probably about 2 miles into the valley. Afghanistan is incredibly arduous terrain, and we got there, and no Americans had been there throughout the war. Now, the war started in 2001, 2002. This is 2011. We got there. We air assaulted in, which means we were dropped in a helicopter. We went in about 6 kilometers in. We marched in the middle of the night. We spent the day with the local villagers. We knew we were going to spend the day there. There was fighting the day before, so we had cleared it out. We got there. We ended up staying the day, talking to local villagers, and we knew that something was off, but we weren't quite sure what it was. So later on that day, we're marching out to a place where we were going to spend the night and then get picked up by the air assets that later on that day. We were in an open field about 500 yards from where we needed to be, so about 5 football fields, and all of a sudden rockets and machine gun fire starts coming in our direction. So we're getting overwhelmed. We had about a 20-man joint element of U.S. Special Forces and Romanian Special Forces, and we had a few Afghan local police with us, and we got overwhelmed. All we had was this, it was a beat up house, basically a mud hut, and they were firing on us, and we were trapped. The only thing we had behind us was literally the face of a mountain, and we had to figure out how to gain fire superiority. The weather was bad, so we couldn't get air assets. Drones were in the air. They couldn't provide support for us. So we had to wait and fight our way out. What ended up happening is I ended up taking an element of 6 Romanian special forces soldiers and 3 Afghan local police. We went up about 150 feet up the side of this mountain in order to gain fire superiority. We were able to repel the attack, but not without cost. I had an RPG that came about 6 feet over my head and exploded, dropped me off dropped me about 100 feet. I fell to the ground. I sustained some pretty bad injuries to my shoulders and my back, but I was able to make it. Obviously, made it back in one piece. But
wow.
In terms of hairy situations, I would say that one was pretty hairy.
Wow. What? So you know what? Talking about Grant, right? Let's just cover this topic in like a minute. You know, everybody on this podcast, we talked about aliens last week. So you came in, you feel like I got a good alien story for you. And then I got some more great questions from our guests.
So I don't know if you saw even in the paper yesterday. So about 10 years ago, there've been a lot of talk about UFOs and the idea, is there these extraterrestrials and what impact are they having? And the Navy over the last couple of years has started to declassify some of these occurrences. And there was this one Navy commander, aircraft pilot, who had said, hey, listen, off the coast of San Diego, I've encountered these things that look like Tic Tacs, and they're dropping at a rate that is unheard of, and they're speeding up, and we don't have any type of propulsion systems that match or are similar to this. So there's definitely, and this guy's been saying this for a decade, and people have been ridiculing him. The U.S. government has been mocking him and denying it. It turns out that they're now starting to come out and saying, yeah, there are these unidentified aircraft that we just don't know. And now the guy's asking for an apology, feels vindicated. It's like, look, man, maybe there is stuff going on. Wow. Who the hell knows?
You were in all these wars, and I always wondered this because I watch all these documentaries and stuff. Do you ever feel that it took too long to get Osama bin Laden? Because how they honed in on Saddam Hussein, but do you feel that it was hard? Do you feel like it should have taken quicker to go and get Osama bin Laden?
I think that by the time we were able to secure Osama bin Laden, I think at that point he was already taken out of the fight. I think it's pretty well documented that his ability to communicate from Pakistan, where he was pretty limited. He was pretty isolated to his family and that one courier. But ultimately, I think the better question would be, did our intelligence apparatus, were they equipped to eliminate the other threats, the more present threats to the U.S. homeland? And further to that point, I would say, should we, early on in the war, if you watch a movie called 12 Strong, talks about the initial special forces teams that went out there, two special forces teams along with some CIA paramilitary officers were able to do significant damage. Maybe the right answer would have been, had we kept our operation small, limited to special operations and intelligence paramilitary forces, would we have had a greater effect and not drawn in essentially recruit more insurgents? Look, you take out Saddam Hussein, you take out Osama bin Laden, somebody else, al-Zakari, pops in, the next guy pops up. It's like we're playing whack-a-mole. So I think the better question is, are we setting up systems in place that more quickly identify threats and then allows them to neutralize the threats?
What was your motivation to go?
My motivation, so I grew up in Hudson County, New Jersey. I'm the son of immigrants from Cuba. My father was a functionally literate. He had a second grade education. Hardest working man I ever met. He worked in the same place for 35 years, never missed a day of work. I think that's where I get my work ethic from. But I was proud of the fact that I live in a country where I'm allowed to have an opinion, right? My parents didn't have that. And I think that when I came of age, we were working poor. The military seemed like an option. And I thought, hey, I'll go in for 4 years, serve my country, make some money for college, and go that route. As fate would have it, I was very fortunate. The military sent me to, they paid for undergraduate, they paid for my two graduate degrees. I met my wife, my best friends, and I think it's given me the foundation to be the man that I've become. But the why is, I'm proud to be an American. I'm proud to live in a country where we can have vigorous debate without bloodshed. And we have elections every 4 years. I could tell you I've been to a lot of countries where election day is a lot of violence, a lot of bombs, a lot of explosions. In this country, we're still in a country where we can do it peacefully, and we can raise our kids to be good people and have relatively safe lives.
I'm just so speechless right now. I mean, I just have to really thank you for everything that you've done, especially for coming on this podcast and just talking about it, because it really just kind of shows like the type of people that join the military. I'm so speechless right now because of all this info that join the military, how they come and they want to help so many people. With this podcast, it's tough to get people to come on. Nobody wants to come and help start off a podcast, but it's people in the military that even if it's a small thing, coming to talk for 30 minutes, you guys just keep helping people even when you're out of the service. And it's just so amazing just to watch. I mean, you talk about how, you coach at one of the top high schools, just recently winning a tournament of champions. It's so amazing. And I feel that just gets so lost in today's world that we don't appreciate everything that you guys have done after and before. And I talk about in my segment, No More Bullshit, which you'll see. People my age, I'm speechless because...
I disagree, Phil. I think your generation... I think
there's some kids that absolutely agree.
You guys are greatly underappreciated. I think a lot of the kids... I'll give you an example. Most of the kids that... And I call them kids because I'm 48. I've had soldiers that were 20 years younger than me. Every kid that joined the military after September 1, when they raised their right hand, they were joining knowing that there was a high degree likelihood that they were going to go off to combat. For 20 years, we've been in that condition, right? I look at, you talk about Don Bosco. Don Bosco Prep has a strong, the Salesians are very much about giving back to the community. And Don Bosco Prep certainly does that. And I can tell you that they truly inspire young men to give back. I know that our lacrosse team, they spent a lot of time doing community service. So I think that, we talk about entitlement and we talk about the age of kids not really being attached to their phones, the Instagram, the social media. I can tell you that has not been my experience. I've had the privilege of coaching at Don Bosco for 6 years and mentoring kids through the Travis Manion Foundation, which is a service, a veteran service organization that was created after the deaths of Brendan Looney and Travis Manion, a Marine Corps officer and a Navy SEAL who were killed in Iraq and Afghanistan, respectively. I do a lot of work with them. But I can tell you, man, your generation has it very, very difficult. And I think that once your generation comes of age, I expect great things. I think that there are a lot of good young men and women that are ready to change the world and are going to have a sincere impact on the direction of not only this country, but the world. And I think, as a parent and as a coach, I couldn't be more proud of your generation.
On my last question, when you're flying in or when you're driving into combat, what's going through your head at that moment? Because everybody always wants to know, what goes on. Like, are you even thinking about anything, or are you just thinking about the guy to the left of you and the guy to the right of you?
Well, that's why you do it. You do it for the guy. And look, make no mistake about it. Flag and country go out the window when bullets are coming in your direction. You're thinking about the guy to your left and your right. But I would say this. whenever I went into combat, I thought about my kids, thought about my wife, thought about my mom and dad, my friends back home. But you gotta think about that. You say your little Hail Mary, right? Say one for the Virgin Mary, and then you go about your business. And I've been blessed. I've been on a lot of combat missions, and everyone that I came back with me. 10 fingers, 10 toes, and heads attached to their necks. So that's what I'm most proud of.
Well, I'm just going to thank you again for everything you did. Thanks for coming on the podcast. I think everyone's really going to love this thing. Boom.
See you later, brother.
See ya.